y'all? Puncher's Point is back in with another one, but this time it's not boxing. It is UFC. Now we have the episodes in the past on the UFC. This one right here will be Israel Adesanya versus Du Plessis. It will be August 17th at the Rack Center in Perth, Australia for the middleweight title. Now, I know this may not be very familiar for boxing fans. So, boxing fans, you can probably, unless you want to watch, you still can. But this is more so a time for the UFC fans and MMA fans to pop out on the Puncher's Point right now. Okay. So, Adesanya Du Plessis, obviously, the case for y'all who not been tuned in. Obviously, Sean Strickland was the belt holder. Y'all know he beat Izzy. Then Du Plessis came into the picture, and then he beat Strickland, which is it's a whole triangle mind blow, mind truck, mind cluck. But now we're here. Adesanya took his long break. You know what I'm saying? We know he had his big breakout win after he defeated Alex Pereira via second round KO after a long battle history with Pereira. Then, of course, like we said, he got in there with Strickland, which Strickland shocked me, literally upset Izzy in the most devastating fashion ever. Literally beat him with a 1-2 in the Philly shell. Crazy, right? He beat Adesanya with a Philly in the 1-2 shell and 1-2 shell. He beat Adesanya with a Philly shell in the 1-2. Then, like I said, of course, Du Plessis came in, and now you got Du Plessis and Adesanya, which actually was supposed to be the original plan all along. But of course, like I just said, I'm not gonna say it again. Strickland derailed that. But now we're here, and now it's time for us to do the breakdown and the prediction for Adesanya versus Du Plessis. Now, I'm gonna have my dog Mario first. Let's break down the contender and Adesanya.
Y'all who aren't familiar with Adesanya, which by the way, Adesanya is a household name now at this point in the MMA. Basically, Adesanya is a future Hall of Famer. It was almost like a passing of the torch from Anderson Silva to Adesanya. So Adesanya's legacy, regardless of whether he wins or loses this fight, I mean, it's already been cemented. He is the greatest middleweight to ever live. And y'all are gonna say Anderson Silva, but I do think it's Adesanya. Now, as far as the strengths with Adesanya, again, he is, before he was a UFC champion, he was a world-class kickboxer. This guy, I mean, his reaction skills are impeccable. This guy, I mean, if we're talking about reaction timing and everything like that, precision, there's no one better. I honestly think there is no one better in MMA history than Israel Adesanya. What I like about Israel Adesanya is his mind's moving at a faster rate than many. So what I mean by that is Israel Adesanya, he's not that type of guy that's going to come in there and basically know what type of strikes he's going to throw. He knows it in the moment. So in the moment, he sees his looks, he knows what he has to do, and he picks it apart. But on top of that, if something changes, he can pick it apart. And if something changes, if the guy moves a certain way that he didn't expect him to move, Adesanya has that reaction ability to basically just kind of switch the game plan in like a second's notice. And that's something that not many people in this world can do, not many fighters in this world can do, let alone in the UFC. So I would say that's his biggest strength is his reaction time and how he's able to find the perfect moment to knock people out. What I also noticed is you can go back to the Robert Whitaker fight, you can go back to the Paulo Costa fight. Guys who are relatively in the same body shape as Dricus Du Plessis. Israel Adesanya, he has this little move where he kind of a guy throws a punch, he kind of weaves out the way, and basically, when he weaves out the way, the guy will throw another punch, and he'll kind of clip him with a counter hook. That counter hook is always working for Israel Adesanya when guys come in. I think that with Israel Adesanya, Paulo Costa, Robert Whitaker, and Dricus Du Plessis all have relatively this, not only just the same body type, but also kind of the same style. Most of those guys, I would consider them more wrestlers with underrated striking. That's the way I would look at it. So if I'm Israel Adesanya, I love how he's able to just counterpunch, and if he's in the pocket, he's that type of guy who usually, unless it's like the first Alex Pereira fight, He's that type of guy that is able to battle in the pocket, fight in the pocket, and make a quick 1 second decision in the pocket, which not many people can do. A lot of guys, you'll see them, they'll cover up, they'll, kind of curl up in a ball, they'll be in like the little anaconda where they're just like, or the armadillo, excuse me. They'll be in the armadillo where they'll just fall and they'll kind of cover their head and like curl up to make sure they don't take any more damage and just hope that they survive. Israel Adesanya is not that type of guy. He wants to be in the pocket. He knows that that's when he's the most dangerous, and that's how Paulo Costa got caught. That's how Robert Whitaker got caught. Another thing about Israel Adesanya, he's very good with range. He's very good with distance and range. Israel Adesanya knows exactly how far away he has to stay from an opponent to prevent from being hit. And that's why if you look at Israel Adesanya, every single time he's fighting, he's in a very tall stance and he's always kind of fidgeting, moving his hands around. He's always kind of like pumping his hand in someone's face, trying to test the range and distance and everything like that. I mean, when it comes to being a pure striker, there's nobody better in my opinion. I know Strickland beat him with a Philly shell and a 1-2 punch, which again, like Breezy said, is beyond crazy that out of all the guys that have stepped into the UFC, it had to be Sean Strickland. But regardless, overall striking ability, I think Israel Adesanya is better than basically everybody in the UFC in general. It's just when you take a guy who's as rugged and as rough as Sean Strickland is, pause, no diddy. When you take a guy who's as rugged, as rough around the edges as Sean Strickland is, that could be a big problem for somebody who fights based off of style and fights based off of strategy. That's a big problem. Now, as far as Israel Adesanya's weaknesses, he's an I'm gonna say this right now. I think he's an underrated wrestler in terms of takedown defense, but he's not good enough to match up with Dricus because what I've seen against bigger guys, they're able to take Izzy down and kind of dominate them on the ground. I was shocked when he took down Alex Pereira. I do think he has some ability in that field, but when it comes to somebody like Dricus Du Plessis, who is a very, very great wrestler, which we'll talk about later on. I think that Israel Adesanya's weakness is going to be what happens when he gets on that ground. Another guy who has a very similar style and a very similar body type to Du Plessis is Marvin Vettori, who he's beaten twice. Marvin Vettori has went the distance with him twice as well. I truly think that if Izzy's going to win this fight, he can't be in the clinches. He can't get involved in the clinch because if he gets involved in the clinch, Du Plessis is going to trip him and take him down. Now, even though when Izzy gets taken down, he's able to kind of recover quick enough and kind of get back on his feet. I've seen that a lot. It's also not the best place you want to be, especially in a title fight where the title is to the champion. So, with that being said, if I had to take some keys to victory for Israel Adesanya, I would say control the distance, take advantage of when Du Plessis kind of rushes in, which again, we'll talk about that as well later. But take advantage of those counter punching opportunities or counter kicks opportunities, knees, and basically don't get caught up in the clinch. Be on the inside, but don't be caught up into the clinch. Don't kind of give him time to trip you up or get your legs and take you down. And especially if you hurt him, I'm gonna say this right now. Here's the warning. If Izzy rocks Du Plessis and Du Plessis looks like he's falling, I don't think Izzy should be rushing in because Du Plessis already has a low base. And on top of that, I've seen many times where Du Plessis got rocked and he was able to take him down. And he was able to take down his opponent while being rocked. So I think Izzy needs to be very careful when he rocks him. I think he needs to play it cool. I think he needs to be very precise. And I think he needs to fight the style that he's been fighting. And I think he needs to take advantages of those openings when he sees them. But that is my breakdown for Mr. Israel, the style bender, Adesanya.
All right. But Izzy has been in there with all the styles you could think of. Jared Cannonier, the the power hitter. Alex Pereira, the guy that can knock you out with any given punch. I mean, he's been in there with all kinds of styles you can think of. What I say what Izzy's going to have to do, Izzy is going to have to play and say, now look, as a guy I used to watch on YouTube with his streams, and he made a great point. He said Izzy is in a way like a Devin Haney. He's more of an outpoint you, counter you, and make you pay and counter you type fighter. And I thought about it, I was like, you know what? That is true. He is. And it's not me saying that their skills is on the same or their power is the same. I don't want nobody in the comment section saying that Izzy is Devin Haney. Breezy said that Devin Haney is. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is their style is kind of similar. They wait for you to mess up the counter. They're more like a hit and not get hit type fighter. Izzy always bouncing on his feet. He has some underrated leg kicks. Izzy is going to find a way to get those leg kicks in on you. He's going to try to mix it up. He's going to go to your top, going to try to go to your body, and he's going to mix it up and give you a lot of them to the leg. If you're in there with Izzy, you're going to have to sit right here and stylistically try to see what he's going to do because sometimes Izzy is unpredictable. Like Mario said, Izzy goes by the moment. Izzy's not going in there. It was like, well, hey, we go AYBZ. No, Izzy is going in there, and any given moment he sees an opportunity to take, he will take. Like Mario also said too, he puts his hands out there to gauge the range. A lot of people don't know. Izzy's a majority of the times is taller than the fighters that he gets in with the octagon with. Izzy has a long reach. He's got a tall statue to him. So usually he's playing the outside fighter. And anytime he's playing the inside fighter, he's always coming in with those inner punches. Like Mario said, if you throw one, he's going to come back and he's going to come back with a counter hook, which is his best punch, which we've seen it hurt plenty of guys. And he's even stopped guys in the past. He's going to have to play this safe because I don't trust Izzy's ground game. I don't trust his ground game, especially with a wrestler on the level of Dricus Du Plessis. I don't trust his ground game. I don't trust him to be able to be on the ground with Du Plessis. I've seen Du Plessis do some amazing things on the ground. So I don't think he should even take into consideration with that. What Izzy's going to have to do is Izzy's going to have to keep this a fight on the feet. He has to. That's his best way. That's his best weapon is to keep it on the feet. You have power in your hands, power in the feet. You're very fast. You're elusive. You bounce on your toes. You know how to keep the range going. Now, weaknesses. Pressure. If you can see, and notice how it's the same thing we said with Devin Haney. If you bring pressure, you make it uncomfortable. For guys who are more so of a patient type, who just sit there and they wait on you and they're trying to figure out the mistakes and they're trying not to hit and not get hit. Those guys rely on you to make a mess up. Those guys rely on you to throw a certain kind of punch so they can react. If you bring pressure to those types of fighters, it makes it really uncomfortable. For example, Strickland. What did Strickland do? Strickland charged at him. What do a lot of people say that Lomachenko did at Devin Haney? He charged at him and made it uncomfortable. So Du Plessis is going to have to make this a very uncomfortable fight. Mix it up with Adesanya. Adesanya does not like pressure. But not only that too, but Izzy sometimes stays up against that damn cage too much. And that's why he ends up losing the rounds. Better yet, I put it this way. That's why he lost that damn Alex Pereira fight the first damn time. Stand on that doggone cage. If Izzy stays on that doggone cage, I'm guarantee you it's going to look ugly. Just like that's why he got rocked by Sean Strickland. Notice how when he got up against that cage, Sean Strickland started teeing off on him. I honestly thought it was going to stop the fight. Izzy does not do well against the cage. Izzy does not do well when somebody is pressuring him. When you make Izzy work, see, Izzy can just sit there all night. He could do that all night. He is the longer fighter. He is the taller fighter. He can do that. He can sit there for all 5 rounds and do that. It does not matter to him because Izzy doesn't have to worry about stamina issues. He doesn't have to worry about you charging him. If you stay right there in front of Izzy, Izzy's going to do that all night long unless you engage and he counters you and hits you with something heavy. But power, he has that. He has some speed. He does have elusiveness. He knows how to keep the range. Those are his strengths. He has a nice counter punch hook that he comes with it. He has those nice kicks. But his weaknesses, the ground game is not necessarily for him. Another weakness would be for him is when you pressure him. But another big weakness is that Dricus can pick up on is when you get him up against that cage, he's very vulnerable. And that's my breakdown for Israel Adesanya.
That was a great breakdown. I like how you mentioned pressure. I'll say this. There are some times where pressure benefits him in a way. I'll give you an example. So you talked about him being on the cage a lot. Well, also remember, everybody can't forget, he knocked out Alex Pereira too. on the cage. And the reason why he was able to do that is because Alex Pereira thought he was going to do the same thing the first time, and Izzy possummed him, just like he did with Paulo Costa, just like he did with Robert Whitaker. The pressure that you need to put on Izzy, in my opinion, is the pressure that he can't counterpunch to. So, for instance, when Strickland would come forward, notice if he came forward, he charged at him, threw 3 punches, and basically just disregarded Izzy's counterpunching ability in general. How did he do that? Well, I'm gonna say this. This is what Dricus needs to do. If he's gonna keep on using his hand to apply distance, you smack that hand out of his face and you charge forward and you punch him. But what you shouldn't be doing is don't do what Paulo Costa did and Robert Whitaker, where you charge forward, leave yourself open, and then give him an opportunity to counterpunch. You charge forward, give him 2 or 3 punches, and you back up. And that's what you do for the entire fight. Every single time Izzy wants to move around, because like you said, he's very quick on his feet, you cut that space. You surround him. You force him to fight on the cage. Don't play into his game. Don't let him possum you, but you force him to fight on the cage. And that is how you beat that's how you beat Israel Adesanya. Going to Dricus Du Plessis. Very, very great wrestler. I mean, this guy was able to out wrestle Strickland, Robert Whitaker, and I do think he's gonna have moments where he's gonna wrestle Adesanya and kind of ragdoll him a bit. What I like about Dricus is, again, he has the opposite ability of Israel Adesanya when it comes to Israel Adesanya's wrestling. I think as a wrestler, Izzy's an underrated guy, but he's not good enough to mess with Dricus. As a striker, I think Dricus is an underrated striker, but he's not good enough to mess with Izzy. So how is he going to win this game? Obviously, everybody's going to say take him down. Obviously, yeah, that's obviously the biggest skill. But how is he going to win on the feet? Because guess what? When he can't take him down, he's going to have to figure out how to win on the feet. He can't just take down Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya gets back up, and Izzy continues to batter him with striking. If y'all remember, he was able to cut Sean Strickland, cut him very bad in that fight. And Sean Strickland is what you call a striker. So how did he beat him? It's very simple. Dricus used his pressure. He was able to connect on some punches, especially the hooks. Like Dricus got some good hooks. He was able to hit Sean Strickland with a hook, cut his eye, was able to pressure him, and now all of a sudden Strickland had to worry about protecting his eye while also defending the wrestling. If Dricus can some way striking, if he can kick Izzy's leg, or if he can kind of batter it a little bit, if he can get inside and have good enough striking to where it makes Izzy think about some things, he can have this fight. He could easily have this fight. All it takes is for him to have Izzy second guessing. And if Izzy starts second guessing, that's when the wrestling opens up. That's when he can be more loose with his striking. Not too loose to where, again, he could counterpunch you, but to where he can kind of loosen up and be like, all right, let me throw some combinations. Let me get into the inside some more and let me pressure this guy. That's what he needs to do. And I think that honestly, once you land that first takedown, if I'm Driscus, I'm aiming for that takedown right away. Once you get that first takedown, Izzy's going to be worried about that. So what do? You start targeting the striking a little bit more. You start using some leg kicks. You keep throwing those leg kicks. Have Izzy. What I would do is this. This is how I would beat Izzy if I'm Driscus. Take him down because you know you can take him down. Take him down. Izzy gets back up most likely. I'm going to throw you a leg kick. I'm going to throw you another one. Guess what Izzy's going to do on the third one? He's going to check it. So what happens when he checks it? I'm going to come forward and I'm going to take him down again. And I'm going to batter him on the ground. I'm going to get him exhausted. Come round two, we're going to do the same exact thing. Now, all of a sudden, you're just focusing on your lower body because you want to protect your leg and you want to protect the takedowns. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to fake it to make it look like I'm taking you down. I'm going to come up and I'm going to clip you. That is the way you beat Israel Adesanya. You second guess him. And that's what Dricus needs to do. Now, the weaknesses with Dricus is this. When he comes forward, he has a wide stance and his chin is open. Brad Tavares, go back and look at the Brad Tavares fight. That is a perfect example of Dricus Du Plessis leaving his head open. When he would come forward, Brad Tavares would counterpunch him. Because Dricus has a low stance. When he came forward, it made it very easy for somebody like Brad Tavares to counterpunch him, to knee him, to hurt him. And there were many times where it looked like Dricus was getting rocked. Now, like I said before, Izzy needs to be very careful when he rocks Dricus because Dricus can take him down. I think this is what Dricus needs to do. That's his second resort. But if Izzy if he tries to do the takedown and Izzy just shrugs him off, it's going to be game over. I think what Dricus needs to do, he needs to come forward. He needs to keep his hands up and he needs to make a decision right then and there. Am I going to clip him? Am I going to strike with him? Or am I going to take him down? That's the decision he has to make. And it's all in the moment. So I think that with Dricus, the keys to victory is use your wrestling. Use your wrestling to decept Izzy and to make him think you're doing one thing when in reality you're trying to open him up some more. And last but not least, basically use your leg kicks, take advantage of Izzy when he's on the ground, when you take him to the ground. And last but not least, don't be afraid to come forward. Just don't be too careless because Izzy can counterpunch you and knock your lights out with a snap of a finger. So to me, that would be my keys to victory. I think if Dricus can overcomplicate things for Izzy and second guess his strategy, I think that Dricus Du Plessis can have a very dominant win against Israel Adesanya. Now I'm gonna pass it on to you. Please give me your breakdown on Dricus Du Plessis. Is there anything that I missed that you can capitalize and cover up on?
Dricus Du Plessis, the same old tale that we've seen before, with the high caliber standard wrestler taking on the high caliber striker. This makes for the most interesting matchup. Now, for Du Plessis, I'll say this obviously. I know it's been said plenty of times, and I know a lot of other people say it too, but obviously, the strength is obviously going to go into the ground game. Some of the best ground game at that division. But not only that, too, Du Plessis is really awkward in his strikes. If he can get up close to Izzy, he can throw Izzy off. Yes, I know Izzy got that count. What I'm saying is, y'all go look at the film of Du Plessis. Look how he throws his punches. And look, let's not forget, those punches carry some power. Those punches can put you down. Now, if Sean Strickland was able to hurt Izzy and get him down, I'm sorry. There is a chance in a way that Du Plessis can catch him with one of those awkward punches and put him down. Now, I'm not saying that Izzy's going to get knocked out. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, once those punches can connect to Izzy, it can hurt Izzy. It can do something to Izzy. Not only that too, but as far as strengths, he has fast hands. He has fast hands, but it seemed like it's more of a weakness than it is a strength. While yet it may benefit him too, but I'm sorry, you charging at guys like with your chin up in the air. And yes, I get it. I know the old saying goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I also believe in too, certain tricks don't fool certain magicians. You know what I mean? And y'all probably what Breezy, where you heard that? I came up with that off the top of my head. Don't ask how I came up with it. But certain tricks don't fool certain magicians. And I don't believe that him doing that is going to work on Izzy. And if anything, I think he should not do that against Izzy. I think that would be the quickest way for him to lose that title and go to sleep. In this fight, and I agree with Mario's to the T how he should do. Mix it up. Do not have Izzy for 1 minute. Don't have Izzy thinking that you're going to do one thing in particular, because if he is, he's going to adjust to it and he's going to pick you apart. And then once he begins to pick you apart, he's more likely probably going to stop you sometime later on in the fight. Izzy is a dog. Izzy, and I don't want to see no freaking dog jokes in the damn chat, okay? I know I said the little, please let that die. Let that Izzy dog situation die. I don't want to come to Punches Point channel and see, yeah, he definitely got that dog in him. He got that, the dog is in him. He's the dog. I don't want to see the shit. Do not come to this channel with that dog jokes. Leave it alone, okay? But nevertheless, Izzy does have a dog mentality to him. He is willing to go out on his shield. But like I said, with Du Plessis, it's hard because it's like he doesn't have the striking to match up with that standardized that striking that Izzy possesses. And it's like majority of these fights the fight starts on feet and majority of them end on the feet. So it's like it's kind of hard because it's like the striking is awkward, it's fast hands and it's punching power, but it's like you leave yourself too open. And not only that too, but it's the whole movement. Like it's like he's literally floating as he's throwing the punches, and it's just kind of like, oh, Du Plessis, oh man. But look, I say this though. He does have power, he does have speed, and he does have some great ground game. But that's as far as my breakdown for Dricus Du Plessis.
One little weakness I forgot to mention, and his footwork isn't the best. So, for instance, there's been many times where Driscus would like come forward, try to throw a knee, and he'd get clipped, and he'd start get rocked. And he's been knocked out before, not in the UFC, but it's been over 10 years, so he's definitely improved for sure. It's definitely harder to knock him out or finish him now, but at the same time, he's been rocked, and I do think that he is capable of being rocked. So that's definitely something you got to watch out for as well. With that being said, let's get to the betting odds. Right now, Israel Adesanya is a minus 120 favorite, slight favorite, while Dricus Du Plessis is a plus 100 underdog as a champion. So, those are some things you really need to start thinking about if you decide to bet on this fight. Us personally, me personally, if I had to make an opinion, I'm gonna give my prediction right now. I think Israel Adesanya is gonna win by fourth, fifth round KO or TKO. However, I don't think you'd be a fool to put your money on Dricus Du Plessis. And the reason why I say that is because he does have the chance to just ragdoll Izzy for 5 rounds. So I do think that that's something to definitely think about if you want to pick the underdog to win this fight, or if you want to pick the underdog to make some more money. If you're asking yourself, should I really pick this underdog or should I go with the favorite? Take a risk and go with Dricus Du Plessis. Right now, I got it like 55% Izzy, 45% Dricus. That's where I would have like the win. That's where I would have their percentage of winning. But if you want to pick Dricus like to kind of get a little bit of some money, take a little bit of a risk, I think this is the fight to do it. There's some fights where I wouldn't risk it. This is a fight where I might take that risk. But overall, if you ask me what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think Dricus is definitely going to make him uncomfortable with the wrestling. I think he's going to have some moments in the striking, but come the fourth round, Dricus is going to get predictable. I think he's going to come forward, get a little too careless. I think Izzy's going to clip him, knock him down, and I think he'll TKO him. So I got Israel Adesanya by fourth round TKO.
I actually like Du Plessis. I like his personality. I like how he carries himself. He's a very chill, down to earth person, and you can tell, he's very adamant and very humble about being champion and whatnot. And the guy has been in some battles and some wars, but there's always a saying that goes, every dog got his day, and I think this is going to be another whole cluster, a fluster cluck for the middleweight division. All the champion changes, Strickland, Du Plessis. It's all around the world. And look, this is the fight game. Anything can happen on any given night, and that I think of. But my prediction, I think Israel, the slash style bender, will TKO Du Plessis in the fifth round. I think when it's all said and done, I do believe it's going to be a back and forth battle. Du Plessis will try to wrestle Izzy. He's going to try to take Izzy down. I think Izzy's going to find some kind. It's going to look like Izzy's about to give up. It's going to look like that Du Plessis is going to take it, but Izzy somehow is going to find a way to constantly get back up. It's going to be back and forth, and I think the fifth round, Du Plessis is going to be in his corner, and his corner is going to be telling him, hey, it's time to go all out. It's the fifth round. And I believe that's going to be his downfall. Him trying to go all out, and he's going to get caught up in trying to do that striking. And then we're going to see Israel Adesanya Hadouken! And catch Du Plessis. And then we're going to see Israel Adesanya come around and start pummeling him. 1, 2, 3. That's it. TKO.
Oh, you think the corner's going to screw it up for him? That's a very interesting take right there. That's a very interesting take right there. I'm interested to see that. That's actually very interesting. If that goes to the fifth round,
Not necessarily corner. I think they're going to tell him that he's going to have to like. But I think he's going to mess up because he's already overly aggressive. He's going to come overly aggressive because it's the fifth round, and he wants to make sure
right?
he takes the last round in the champion round. And I think that's where it's going to cost him. Not necessarily his corner, but him trying to overly throw and overly commit.
I can see that for sure. And with that being said, you know what I'm saying? Look, this is going to be a great fight. Perth, Australia. Obviously, Izzy's from New Zealand. He was born in New Zealand. Obviously, there's been a whole back and forth on who's more African. Driscus is a native born in Africa, South Africa. Izzy's got African descent in him, but he is from New Zealand. This is going to be in Perth, Australia. Co-main event. It's got Kai Kara France. Um, I know Dan Hooker's on this card, tied to Ivasa. It's a whole Australian card. It's gonna be pretty interesting. But just remember, Dricus is a great fighter, but Izzy's got that dog in him. So with that being said, I'm just playing. I had to slip one dog joke in. But with that being said, okay, Breezy, would you like to break it down for the puncher's point?
Once again, we the hottest new platform out here in these social media streets. Y'all know what the deal is. It's the Puncher's Point. We typically do boxing, but sometimes we switch it up and we do UFC, as you've seen with this episode, and as you can go see with the other episodes, because we did a fight card before. Make sure you go tune into this one, and make sure you tune into this, and make sure and look, if you're both, watch both the UFC, watch the boxing ones, watch all of them. We're the Puncher's Point. We're here every week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and some Sundays if you are lucky and blessed. But without further ado, we are the Puncher's Point. We're out of here. Make sure you stay on point with the Puncher's Point.